Test, test.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'll call this meeting of the Streets and Utilities Committee to order. We have 3 items on the agenda this evening. Madam Deputy Clerk, will you read our first item agenda, please?
First up, we have a presentation from the Engineering Department regarding traffic signals.
Thank you very much. So with us we have Ms. Veronica Newsom from our Engineering Department, who's going to be taking us through the presentation.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I can just pull that one out.
I got it. Yep. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming tonight. So we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about traffic signal health. Traffic signals, believe it or not, are not very old. They're about 100 years old. So this is one from Cleveland in 1915. This is before Garrett Morgan's style one, which he's famous for, in case you're not aware. He devised a traffic signal that had the intermediate yellow. Before then, it was red on one side, green on the other, and then it switched. So there was a lot of intersections because there was no all red days. So that is how it works. All right, so this is going to be a little bit of back and forth. I devised it this way in case we got disconnected from the internet so that you could still see some pictures. So recently we devised an in-house public-facing GIS for our signals. Now, what does all that mean? It means that we have a map and then basically an asset management system. So we've gone out there and taken pictures of all the intersections, opened all of the boxes, and also basically taken all of the signal timing information and put that all online so that it is available. The intersection that I'm going to be looking at tonight is the intersection of 58 and 611. So as you can see, we have 42 signals in the city. These are the signals. And then, as I stated, the signal that we're going to look at is this one. And so you can see there, it gives a little bit of information about the signal, where is it located, when was it installed, etc., what project was it installed as. And then we have these photos. So you can pick on a photo. And then there's a photo of what the actual intersection looks like. And we have different styles of them, different ones that are near or far. Again, just to give you an idea of place. A lot of times we have consultants come in and they're like, oh, you should do this, you should do that, and they've never even been to the area. So this helps them get a little bit of a understanding of what's going on out there. Next, we have what we call an as-built link. So this is, like I said, the inside of your cabinet. Lots of times you see these things on the side of the road and you're like, well, what's in there? A bunch of electrical junk and a bunch of computer things. So usually on the top you have your detectors. In the middle here, this is sort of the stuff that gets the signals going. And then this, all these little boxes, those are phases. So when the lights are changing, you have to have a box for each of those things. That's why some of the boxes are really big for big intersections, and then some of the boxes are really small for just your standard one way in each direction. And then lastly, like I said, timing patterns. Oh, that's checkout list. So this is all the gobbledygook that makes the actual intersection work. So all of this basically electrical and information technology stuff that powers the cabinet, etc. This looks like nothing to us, but to consultants, they're able to tell if the signal is operating properly. Again, this is more for outsiders to be able to look at it and see how it works. All right. And this is just in case we didn't have internet tonight. Like I said, it tells you those things, gives you the approach cabinets, and then the timing patterns. This is an older style one. We didn't have all of that electrical information, so someone just sat there and wrote down the different phases. Nowadays, it's all digitized. So one of the new things that we've installed along the 611 corridor is a software called Glance. Glance software is basically going to give you your cabinet health, your intersection health, so that our signal techs can figure out what's going on out there. I need to minimize this real quick. All right, so this is, right now, this is live data. So this is the intersection of 611 and 58. And you can see it has the cabinet temperature that's right now, it's 107 degrees in there. Gives you your voltage, your humidity, the batteries. It's telling you if the door is open. Is the signal flashing? Is the fan on? Isn't it networking? All those sorts of things. And this is helpful because when our signal guys get a message at 3 a.m., they can look on here on their phones and see what's actually going on out there before they go out in the middle of the night. It's also helpful for just the health of the cabinet. But like I said, that's something that we've added recently. I don't know how I didn't resume, but we'll go back. Did I do it funny this time? I don't know what I did. Strange. Thank you. All right. So this is another part of that Glance software. They have these in Avon, and we haven't started ours up and running yet along the 611 corridor, but we do have this. Is it going to play sound in here? Do you know? Probably not. It doesn't seem to. All right, we'll skip it. We don't need it. It's fine. I can explain it. Okay, so there is an app that you can put on your phone called Travel Safely. And when you're driving through town, Avon in particular, like I said, they have it on every single signal. It tells you when how long until the green light, right? It also will alert you if there is a fire truck coming or a police vehicle, etc. This is to make you like a more informed user of the city signal stuff. But like I said, right now we only have it on those 3 signals, those new 3 signals. All right, the other thing that we've added on the new signals is MyoVision equipment. MyoVision equipment is basically video detection that allows you to utilize video technology to change the lights. A lot of times what happens is we have little loops in the road, so you'll kind of see them at an intersection. It kind of looks like somebody cut out a square near the signal, and that is basically a device that tells the signal that there's a car there. These new devices have cameras, so it picks up if people are there, and then it changes the light based on that. The thing that's great about the MyoVision equipment is that it lets you do a lot of things. Like I said, it lets you do detection. It lets you monitor the intersection. It lets you check performance. It lets you build reports. It lets you improve safety. That's a little bit newish. I know they have it on there, but it's new. It's not quite there yet. Opticom priority control, that is your preemption. So if there's a fire truck, if there's a police vehicle, so that you're aware that something's going on. And then adaptive, as I pointed out, when the video eye sees it, it changes traffic. So this is what we currently have, and I will go back to this. Where did I log in? That's a good question. Here we are. All right. So like I said, we're going to click down here on the intersection. Where'd my map go? Come on, map. Here we go. All right, so this is the intersection of 21st and 58. As you can see right now, it's 62 degrees out there. It tells us what devices are in the cabinet over here. This is the camera, 360, so it's a little fisheye lens and it looks at everything. The controller, that's just telling us, again, consultant stuff, what type of equipment it is. Cellular, that means that it's able to talk to us, so it basically has a cell modem in it. And then Smart Sense, The detector racks, like I said, it's detecting the traffic out there. This is live traffic, so this is what it looks like right now. So in Google Traffic, of course, dark red means that there's some delay there. Then yellow, and then green's free flowing. Next, we're going to look at the telemetry. We'll see how long this takes to go. We can see the lights as they turn. So right now, you can see now we have the northbound traffic is going, and the southbound traffic is going. So that means that we have the left-hand turns moving. And then as those things are turning purple, that's the detection's happening. We'll show a live in a second. But like I said, this is actually like as it goes. Let's see if this comes up. This always takes forever upstairs for me. How can it keep going back? What am I doing here? You went here. Yeah, so like I said, we'll wait up while we're waiting on that. Currently in the system, like I said, we have 42 signals. We have 17 of them that are now operating on the video detection system. Last year we did a whole bunch of them along the 57 corridor. You can see them there, as well as the intersection of Northridge and Pearl. And we have 2 more getting added this year. That's Colorado and Henderson. And we can't see it, it's off the page, but Tower and 58. Again, like I said, it shows the Google traffic on there, so if you're experiencing a problem, you can go in there and see if the traffic is stopped or not free-flowing. That was just me drilling down. Alerts, it does show alerts. Let's see if our camera came up. Of course it stopped. There it goes. All right. So this is actually live traffic. So as it's going on, you'll see as the cars pull up to the areas, you'll notice that it turns on little green things. So let's see the cars come here. See how they light up? That is the signal seeing them, and it changes the traffic light. And it's based on our current timings, of course, but it also has to do with what's actually live traffic out there. It's a little bit weird, but the reason that we only have 1 camera is because it actually helps on maintenance. What we've seen in the city is that when we have the 4 cameras, 1 for each direction, that due to the high winds, because we're so close to the lake and our inclement weather, we're actually having issues with having so many cameras at an intersection. So this system just operates on 1 camera. Like I said, we have 17 now that have just the 1 camera. Makes it easier for our signals team to maintain as well as operate. I just want it to start from here. There we go. Then it's in that one, and then I go this way. All right, so here you can see, again, it records all this information. So this shows all of your alerts. This, as you could tell, we had some sort of power outage in February. So we lost power, and then all these things started coming down, right? You can't get telemetry. The lights are flashing because there's batteries in them. The devices are unavailable, etc. So, uh-oh. It's okay. So I think we talked about this already. It's showing the different signaling as well as the actual status. This is another page I didn't show. So Let's go back to that real quick. So the timing diagram. So this is showing which light is red, which light is yellow, and which light is green. And if we had an issue, we could have someone just log in, because we can give everybody permission that needs to see it, consultants, different people working on our signals, and they can look at this and diagnose if there's any issue currently occurring. This is super helpful to have because it's very difficult to explain to someone that the light just isn't working. What is wrong? Here we can actually see what is wrong with the signal, if anything. Okay, as I said, there is video detection out there now. Traffic volumes. The reason I selected this intersection in particular is because I got the MyoVision company who sells this product to share with us what it looks like. This is traffic volumes. With these new detectors and the video detection, you're able to get continuous counts. Lots of times people have lots of ideas about how many cars are coming through an intersection, how many trucks, how many pedestrians, how many cyclists. This is recording it 24 hours a day, always. So you're not getting a one-off. You're not getting, oh, it was rainy that day, it was hot that day. You're getting the actual counts. So I think this was March 5th when I ran it. So we had about 16,000 vehicles, 2% were trucks, and then it gives us where our peaks are. Then it breaks it down further. It shows us how many vehicles were just standard vehicles, how many were trucks, buses, cyclists, so they have articulated trucks as well as single unit trucks, and then pedestrians. It breaks it down into those different categories based on which direction that the traffic is coming from. This is one of my favorite things. I'm not a traffic engineer, but I just like looking at these because they're easy to read. The fatter the line, the more the traffic. It's as easy as that. So you can see here, we're on 58 and we're headed north. So there's a lot of that right-hand turning traffic right there at Family Dollar. I think we're all familiar with that. The other left-hand turns aren't as heavy. Most of the traffic is north-south along 58, but it is pretty solid along east-west as well. So you can also get trends. So here they do a 7-day trend. I was able to go in there across 7 days. We had about 106,000 vehicles, 1.68% trucks, and it gives you the breakdown of the other things. But this just sort of helps you see if one day you have 5% trucks, and then you run it for a week, and then you see, oh, it's actually 2%. You just had a bunch of trucks on one day for some reason. It really helps you get into the data a little bit more. No, that was for 7 days. Yep. So we're going to go in here and look at it. And like I said, I only have this for the one intersection. They let me put it on for a pilot. So this is yesterday, so we had about 13,000 vehicles, 0.46 trucks, right? It's a Sunday. There's not a lot of truck traffic on a Sunday. As you can see, Mary, the peak there was about 10:30 to 11:30, and then we had a midday at about 1:45, 2:45, and then we had a peak about 3:15 to 4:15. So those were our three peaks, and then, oops. Well, that as well, correct. Like I said, this is basically the traffic report from yesterday, and like I said, we can come in here and, you know, pick our days, pick a certain day. Like I said, it being a weekend, it's a little bit different than, say, a weekday. So let's see if I can just go day to day. So again, this is a weekday, so this is last Monday. Again, you're going to see more, like I said, 2% truck tends to be pretty standard on this roadway. But you can see the total vehicles is up. Our peak is a little bit different than on a Sunday. But again, it gives you all that information that you're looking for. So why am I here? I asked to speak today because, like I said, recently we have been working to upgrade these signals. Like I said, we have 17 out of 42 done, and we have 2 more this year, so we'll be at 19 out of 42. And I'm hoping, I haven't spoken with the administration yet, but I'm hoping to apply for CMAQ funds. So those are funds that are available every 2 years, the odd numbered years. And it's about, I want to say it's $40 million that's available that we can ask for from NOACA. Usually our projects at the city are about $2 million, $500,000 to $2 million depending. We can ask it 100%. They don't have to allow it, but we can ask. And my hope is to ask for additional funds to improve the remainder of the signals so that they're all like this. We can see all this information. This one, these mobility reports, because our system is aged, it needs to be incremental improvements. So if we can get the cameras out there to show what's happening and improve efficiency to get traffic moving, then we can use these reports to ask for more safety dollars, to make more improvements like we've seen along 611 at those new signals. If we don't have this information, every time we run one of these studies, we have to ask NOACA to do it, and it can run from $10,000 to $50,000. If we purchase this equipment, it's about $6,000 for the life of the equipment. So if we ask for that across 42 signals, that's $240,000. So I wanted everybody to have an understanding of what this reporting information is and how it's useful, because it helps us see these trends, it helps us get this data, and it'll help us get money from safety, because they can say, oh, did you do a safety study? And we say, oh, what day do you want it? Do you want it for the year? Do you want it for the month? Do you want it for the week? Here it is. So that's all I had.
Awesome, Veronica. Thank you. I did have a couple questions before I turn it over to council. So these stoplights, we've heard that they were expensive. Can you tell us like how much these stoplights would cost at an intersection like the one you showed us on 21st and 58?
Sorry, I just want to pull this up in case we have any questions about this next. All right, so we just did these 3 intersections. It was at Levitt, Oberlin, and Washington. We also did a project on US 6 and installed a Hawk at Lakeview Park. So all combined, it was about $1.3 million for the 3 signals, plus the road diet on 6 and the crossing at Lakeview Park. These signals in particular, about $250,000 a signal. So when you see the new mast arm and the lighted street lights and all that equipment out there, it's about $250,000. So that's usually what we're looking at. The new signal at Colorado and Henderson is coming in, I think it came in at $700,000. And the new intersection at Tower and Levitt is out to bid, and our estimate is $300,000. So traffic signals with all those mast arms and all this equipment, they're very costly.
We typically get those funded through these programs like you had mentioned, either at an 80-20, a 90-10, even sometimes could be at 100%.
Yes, absolutely. So the ones along the 57 corridor, we added that new equipment. Those were actually Department of Energy, and that was a 100% formula grant. So we used those funds to improve 6 signals. Yes, 6 signals. I always miscount because Pearl has 2 cameras because of the railroad. It's at such a distance. To make sure that it's operating with the railroad properly, we had to do 2 cameras. But yeah, and then the ones along 611 and at Lakeview Park, those are at 90-10 because those are safety dollars. Again, we had to do a bunch of studies to be able to prove that, yes, there's a lot of injuries. We need these upgraded.
And then my last one, just, I don't know, comment more than question probably, but us that have been on council for a long time, We were here when many stoplights were taken out of the city of Lorain. I know Councilman Arroyo probably still gets calls about 28th and Pearl. And we were told back then that, one of the reasons these lights went away is because the state says they're not warranted because of traffic counts. However, we did keep some lights that still are not, I believe, meeting that warranted. How often do we redo that study to see if they're warranted or not warranted? And then my understanding is we can keep these ones that are unwarranted. Like I think I have two, one on Buckhorn and Oak Point and one on 40th and Levitt. But we can't get any dollars to pay for those, to upgrade those to the new fancy stuff. Am I correct?
That is correct. So you can always put a signal in wherever you want if you find that it's warranted. There is a certain amount of engineering judgment or city judgment, administrative judgment that is allowed. So say, for example, Super K. Before they built Super K, there was no need for the light. How do you prove you need one? You can say, I believe there'll be enough traffic. We're going to put one in here on 58. Nowadays, you could just do a study. The existing signals that are unwarranted, that study was done in 2015. And I said the same thing because the one that's unwarranted that bothers me is the one at George Daniel. That was done prior to the high school being built. So I've been working the past couple of years to try and get them to do a safety study on our unwarranted signals. I have thus far been unsuccessful, but I'm still working on it.
Awesome. Thank you, Veronica, for all the information. I'm going to open it up to Council. Councilman Springowski.
Yes, West 40th and Levitt. My husband had a relative that was killed there back many, many decades ago. So that's always, and there have been a couple of fatalities there. With the work that's going to be done on Tower, that is going to increase the traffic through there because of the cutover and the back roads. So I think that is a very necessary stoplight. I do like this very much because we get requests from residents all the time about traffic studies and wanting this put in or that put in. And this will really help us with what we've got so far in maintaining the lights that we've got. I would love them to do another traffic study on East Erie at Missouri because that's become a speedway. And some of these roads and that, but Pearl at 28th Street is another one because you've got on the street parking and it's still very difficult for line of sight, and you've got people that drive like they're invincible, like they're driving an armored car, and the rest of us are not. So, these are things to be considered, but I do like this. I like that you can find peak hours. I like the implications for traffic enforcement because we get so many complaints about speeders, and this, I think, will be a very effective tool for the city if it's used properly. So thank you for your work on this. This is very impressive.
I'm sorry. Councilman Sprikowski made me think. The East 28th Street TLCI study, they have made progress finally. We were awarded those funds back in 2021, and we received the existing conditions study this month. Or it might have been right at the end of last month. Don't quote me, but within the last couple weeks. So that's the existing conditions along that corridor on 28th Street from Broadway to Grove. And NOACA is working on the proposed improvements for that corridor. But there is finally movement because, as you said, Mary, there are several intersections there that need addressed. We did add the camera at Fulton, but Pearl and Grove both need some attention, we'll say.
Thank you, Councilman Sprowski and Veronica. Next, we have Councilman Nutt.
Thank you, sir, through the chair. Just a couple quick questions. So you had referenced that it's $6,000 per for the life of the equipment to upgrade. Is that you said it's all $250,000? That's correct. Is that to upgrade existing, or
that is only for that monitoring equipment?
That's just for like that fisheye camera type thing.
No. That is just for the continuous reporting.
Okay, so
So I can give you some ballpark,
sure.
right? The cameras are about $10,000 a piece.
Hmm.
Right? Like I said, we installed those ones along the 57 corridor. Our staff did that. So Les and Andre from our signals department did that. They installed all those cameras. And then the company that we purchased them from came out and wired them into the existing cabinets. So we wanted to try that as a pilot to see if our application this year could be realized with city forces and the assistance of wherever we purchased them from. The equipment is purchased via state contract or federal contract, however you want to look at it, and installed. The software that I was talking about, that $6,000, nowadays they lump in the cell service and all of the like operating costs into a lump sum because that's how cities get their grant funding. We don't usually get money across 7 years or 10 years. We get it in a grant. So this way it enables us to ask for the equipment plus services for that period.
So that service is the fee to run the software for it. You said for the lifespan of the equipment.
Correct.
What is the lifespan?
They're saying 7 to 10 years.
Okay.
But I mean, what is it actually? I don't think they know because they've just switched over to this sort of lump sum subscription sort of system.
Okay, so that upfront fee to purchase it and work with them to install it, and then that includes the software, the running it, the day-to-day, all that, customer support, whatever.
Correct.
Okay.
And one of the things that I should point out too that I really like about this software is that we have the ability to add people. I don't know where it went.
And just as you're looking that up,
Sure.
you said that would be, you'd be looking at possibly going after the CMAQ, was it? CMAQ funds to fund that?
Correct.
Okay.
Those are congestion mitigation and air quality dollars. Like I said, they're available every odd year. And NOACA, like I said, I believe they set aside $40 million. So like anything, if this fails and we don't get the money from NOACA, this will become a safety project and I'll rebrand it and we'll apply for the funding that way.
Okay. And then I just think I have one more question. With the cameras that are on, I think you said we have 17 signals with the cameras on. With that video footage, is that saved and maintained? Is that stored somewhere? Do we have any kind of issues with that?
It does save it. However, this is a question more for Chief McCann and his staff. When it saves it down in a, I guess I'd say a blurry-esque version. So you can't read license plates, you can't see faces, etc. When you see it live, it's clear. It's at 4K.
Okay, that's what
But
just some sort of like a data security issue with storage or something.
Correct.
So it does save it, probably just to go back and check traffic counts, but it does blur out license plates, like you said, faces, so we shouldn't have any issues with.
Correct. We had questions about that once they told us that they were saving the information.
Understood. Okay, that's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Nutt. Councilman Arroyo.
Thank you. I won't bring up, well, first of all, I appreciate the presentation. It's very informative. I won't bring up 28th and Pearl since everyone else brought that up, but back when they did the study last time I was on council, they took down 3 lights that were, I think, important in the neighborhoods. One of them was that intersection. The other one was 31st and Clinton Avenue and 31st and Palm. And I'd like to bring both of those up again just because 31st and Palm is actually where the high school drops off about 50 kids. And there's accidents at times, and it's right at the corner entrance to Oakwood Park for kids coming in. And the other one is 31st and Palm. That's where the kids walk up from the elementary school. So both of those were taken down and actually turned in petitions at the time from a lot of the residents because of the safety of the neighborhoods. And there's actually accidents that do happen at those intersections. But so if we're going to be on the lookout for that, those are a couple that I'd like to turn in. One of my questions, well, I like the app situation, the apps that you presented. In reality, how close are we to that?
So the Travel Safely app, you can go and download it right now. It already exists because they're running it in other cities. It's just I'm still working on our side to see how we get that to work, and if it is working. I mean, I haven't been out there. Again, the project ended December 31st, and then the signals and everything got checked out January 31st, so it's still super new. You might take your phone out there right now and it's working. I just cannot confirm that.
And that's
today.
just for a few apps, or that's for all
It's
apps?
just for those. It's just for those 3 signals for that Travel Safely app.
So in reality, we're probably still pretty far away from getting that in action.
For the entire city, correct.
Okay.
hmm
And if we was to get that, how much would that cost?
That would be included as part of the. So we have it in the 17 signals, and we would ask for it in the remaining.
Okay.
So it would be part of this. Like I said, it's that glance software, so it's just one more piece of equipment that goes in the cabinet. I will mention Clinton and 31st. We did look at that, and when we looked at the footage that we had from the traffic cameras, as well as the traffic commissioner looked at the accidents, where we are getting the crashes is people not stopping on Clinton.
Right.
It's not that they're not stopping on 31st, they're not stopping on Clinton. So what we recommended was some additional signage saying stop ahead, make sure to stop, and hopefully we'll get those up this spring and get some additional attention out there. As far as the Palm intersection goes, I agree 100%. We were out there working on our Safe Routes application for this year, and those little kids are like knee-high. They're so tiny. So we applied for funding to put sidewalk on 33rd and 34th by the school, Gary and Palm from 35th up to 31st, and then down 31st from Grove to Tacoma, and put in the blinker things that the kids can push that light up, the RFBs, at Gary and Palm. So hopefully that should help the kids get to school easier.
So after the signs, in reality, if we don't see a change, can we put those lights back up? Because again, those are kids crossing the street on 31st and Clinton.
So to get a new signal, we would have to go through a safety study, and then again, like I said, it would be about $250,000 for a signal.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Arroyo. I see no more. Got some more lights from council. Councilwoman Duvall.
We were told at one of the meetings that they're going to be closing one side of the bridge this fall or whatever for repair. And this is on traffic light health. So I'm assuming you're talking about all the lights in the city. You could do that. So I understand that these lights that you have where you can easily adjust the timing are if we look at the way the traffic was diverted the last time there was work at the bridge, a lot of people were directed over Henderson, or if they came this way, then they were, it was a lot of diversion. Is there any way that that can be synchronized so that at the times when they need longer periods for traffic to flow, that it can be done so that we're not stuck here in central, although, I don't mind being stuck in central Lorain, but, a 15-minute trip from across the bridge down to wherever is, it's a big traffic jam. Is there anything that could be done with the traffic lights on a temporary basis to relieve that type of traffic jam?
So the new detectors, that's what it will be doing, is it'll be seeing that live traffic and it'll adapt to what the current situation is. Again, to improve efficiency through the system. Moving forward, like I said, the Colorado and Henderson light will be done this year, but all the way through that corridor should be on that video detection now. So it should be better. I will speak to the closure, though. ODOT is working on those span locks. They were hoping to get it done this winter, but they didn't. And I thought the maximum amount of days they said we could be out is just 3 days. And they would maintain traffic in one direction. So I think if we're just good with our notification to everyone, that would help a lot.
Thank you.
And then I forgot one thing. Can I?
I'm way over.
Please continue.
I forgot the last part of the application. So for the CMAQ application, the last thing that we're doing is we are working on a bridge status notification system. So this is going to be twofold. It's signs as well as an app, which is similar to what they have up in the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Seaway system. So when you come here, you can see which bridges are up and which bridges are down and which bridges are under maintenance. So we have gone over, we had our initial meeting with the county staff, and we talked to them about it, and they said that we would be able to convey to the public real easily if it was short lift, if it was long lift. So short lift's like 5 minutes, long lift's like 15, and then open is a green light. So as you pointed out, Sylvia, that would tell you way back at the Colorado light if you should avoid downtown. It would tell you way out at 58 if you should avoid downtown. So that's what we're trying to get to. Like I said, what this would actually look like, I don't really know yet. We're still working on it. The application is due in May. But we're hoping we can tie into this system because this is a live system for everywhere. This isn't just for St. Catherine. So you can see we can come into here and zoom in on Lorain. We don't have anything out there right now. But you can see there is live traffic over here in Cleveland. So these are live boats. It pings and it tells you what's out there. And it'll show them as they come into the lake, where they're parking, what's happening. But again, like I said, it's not quite fleshed out yet, but I did want to mention it. Another thing that we did is we want to make sure that the signage we put up at these signals is like a flat sign, so if it gets damaged, we can replace it in-house. We're not spending $15,000 on a sign that nobody knows how to work. It's just a piece of metal. And then 3 lights on it, a red, a yellow, and a green. Again, something real simple to replace if we have some issues. And the app, we just want to build that in-house with our GIS team, and that'll operate that way as well. So a lot of in-house sort of items. You know, you got to use what works. Sometimes we spend millions of dollars creating something that's so complex that how do you even use it? We want to use something for this that it's going to work for a very long time.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilwoman Duvall. Councilwoman Moon.
Thank you, Chair. I have one on Globe and 28th Street. They took that light down, and it's a dollar store there, and there's housing behind there. And so many times I see the young children and the families trying to get across the street, because you know how it is, mama send you to the store with a note, and they're fighting to get across there. And also on 36th Street and Lorain Avenue, from 28th Street all the way down, there's no lights. Bless my mother heart. My sister and brothers got hit by cars over there back in the days. And she fought for a light to go up on 30th and Lorain Avenue. But we have the Clearview School busings that go down 36th Street. And it ties up a lot of traffic. Traffic is tied up so bad till I'll go around 35th Street to come out so I can meet it. But that's one on Globe and 28. You know, the kids, sometimes I'll get out my car and trying to help them go across the street. So I appreciate the presentation and good job, but whatever you could do for that area would be well appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Moon. Seeing no more lights from council, if anybody from the public wishes to comment or question, please come up to the mic. Going once. Anybody else from council? Yeah. I'd like to thank Veronica for the thorough presentation. We're going to take about a 1-minute break here just while we switch presenters before we move on to our second item of the evening. Thank you, Veronica. Yeah. Oh, it's there. All right. I told you. Let me get your mark the board. Ladies and gentlemen, if we could please find our seats. Again, as typical, we are having a little bit of technical issues, but we're working through that for the actual presentation. But we're going to be moving to item B on the agenda this evening. This is a presentation from, and I hope I'm saying names right, Kyla Presto and Aaron Markboy from NOPEC regarding community investment and economic development at NOPEC. So I'll turn it over to our presenters.
Thank you. I'm Kyla Presto, Dedicated Relationship Manager for the City of Lorain. I'm here to support all of you with any questions you may have, so I wanted to do a quick introduction. NOPEC is Ohio's largest governmental energy aggregator. We have more than 240 member communities that gather together to harness competitive energy rates for their citizens. The City of Lorain has been a member of NOPEC since 2002. And looking at the benefits that Lorain has garnered by being a member of NOPEC, of course, the competitive energy rates, and then also the NOPEC Energized Community Grant Program has been another great benefit to the City of Lorain. Since the 2019 disbursement of that program, the city has received $797,000, over $797,000 in grant funds through that program. This year alone, $28,313 was awarded, and this is for energy improvement projects. Also, the City of Lorain has received the Community Event Sponsorship Program benefit as well by being a member of NOPEC, and this year we're helping to support your foam party in the park. Another benefit that NOPEC offers to your community is 24/7 customer care. So if your residents are up late at night and have a question, we are there around the clock, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to serve you and your residents. And while we're working to get this presentation up, I just wanted to give you a little bit of overview of all the different benefits that NOPEC offers, and Aaron's going to go in much deeper detail about some of the offerings that we help to support the City of Lorain with.
Works with Lorain on? Both.
So the City of Lorain is member for gas since 2002, yes. We serve your community for your gas aggregation program.
Thank you.
Yes, and the city was a member for electric for some time as well. Good evening. My name is Aaron Markovi. Thank you very much, Kyla. I'm the Director of Economic Development and Community Investment for NOPEC. It's so very nice to see so many of you again. The last time I was in this chamber, it was to gain approval of a property assessed clean energy project that the city approved, and it allowed NOPEC to be able to invest $1 million into Journey Home Restoration, which is a fantastic job creator, and they do a lot of good work at their new facility. So this evening, what you have at your desk is our printed project, and let me program, and let me apologize. I don't think I got the formatting correct, so that what you're going to see is actually an excerpt of the presentation that we provided to a larger group of small businesses and on the behalf of Lorain Port some weeks ago. So this is an excerpt from that. The City Council has various notes that are specific to the City of Lorain. So what you're going to see on the screen is our earlier version without the Lorain specific stuff. Your council president asked us after he attended that event where we probably had, Kyle, I don't know, 30, 40 people show up. It was a great event. We actually had it at the shipyards. Yes, Councilman Spakowski was there. Thank you. And we were very pleased to be able to bring some of this information around. And Council President asked us to come and give a very brief synopsis. So I'll try to wrap this up in 5 or 10 minutes. But all of this information exists for you and your residents, small businesses in the audience to be able to take advantage of. Please call our offices, even if people don't wind up working with NOPEC as it relates to grants or loans. loans. We love talking to small businesses and nonprofits to be able to try to help put them on the right path, to be able to pay less for their energy, use less energy, and the like. So being a NOPEC member community really does have a lot of advantages to be able to bring information and partnership to your small businesses here in Lorain. I will begin very briefly with a disclaimer. It's everybody's favorite. We're not your legal or tax counsel. Please make sure that you seek that. But we do make sure that we tell everybody that as we go. And our agenda here really covers a lot of who NOPEC is very briefly, the context for Ohio, what an energy audit is, tax credits, loans, resources, alternatives. And the audience is really for the folks that you see there, all the good people here on Lorain City Council, folks in the audience, anybody that has relations with small businesses or local nonprofits especially. So NOPEC, who it is and who we are, 243 communities. We actually have another one that just joined, 244 now. The city of North Canton joined. A lot of people don't know this, but we are actually a watchdog for consumers. We take steps to make sure that if a utility is going to raise rates, that they do so fairly or not at all. We partner with the Ohio Consumers Council a lot to be able to make sure that that happens. We are out there in the State House advocating for the nearly million customers that work with NOPEC. And we're also energy educators, so that's part of what I'm doing here tonight. And we have a whole team of people that go to community events, big fans of a lot of the community events that the city of Lorain puts on. We always try to get somebody there, have a table out there, let people know how to read your energy bill. If you're a business, it's a little bit different than if you're residential, all of those good things. We do try to make sure that people have a good idea of what they're doing. And also, just to be clear, we are a non-mercantile. Mercantile is a magic word, so that's something that the Ohio legislature says if you're above 700,000 kilowatt hours a year. Just to give a sense of context, your typical household is about 10,000 kilowatt hours a year, so obviously much, much larger things. But anything from an office building or et cetera, those are usually non-mercantile, and they can participate in the aggregation, which gets them better pricing. And they don't need to necessarily employ a broker, which can sometimes add cost. NOPEC was approved by voters and council several years ago, as Kyla mentioned. And we also focus, as I mentioned, on residents and small, medium-sized businesses. So that's who we are. Let's talk about Ohio. So Ohio's workforce is really kind of broken up about 50-50. Although the vast majority of businesses are small businesses in the state, it's about half and half roughly of employees that work for large businesses versus small businesses. And that 0.4% of businesses that are not small businesses, those are your Amazons. That one Amazon counts as one versus all of the various small businesses that are out there. That's why the numbers seem a little lopsided. But there are so many small businesses out there, and we love working with them, and that's really part and parcel as to why we develop these programs. And here's a little bit about what our goals are. So we want to educate people, especially small businesses, about their opportunities, how to fund projects, and facilitating technical assistance. A lot of times it can be a little bit of a labyrinth to be able to either get at money or figure out stuff about your energy profile, and we help along the way. As I said during my introduction, we really encourage people to reach out and talk to us. And the first step is with an energy audit. So for those of you that may not know what an energy audit is, it's a roadmap. And an energy audit is sort of tantamount to if anybody owns their home and they went through a inspection, before you buy the home, you take like 6 hours off of work and you go through the crawl spaces and everything else. That's sort of what an energy audit is, only on a larger scale. So, if you have a pizza shop or you buy a bookstore and you're going to run a bookstore, all of those things you get with an energy auditor, and that energy auditor walks with the business owner and determines, okay, you need a new breaker box that's going to save you this amount of energy. You got to rip and replace this over here, that over there, the HVAC, the insulation, the windows. That's really what an energy audit does. So we educate a lot of small businesses on what an energy audit is, and there are a couple of different standards depending on what you need. Some people like a little bit of an HVAC replacement or something like that, or some people say, look, I want to replace all of the everything, the windows, the insulation, the roof, and all of that. And the energy audits have different standards to be able to meet the different needs of the business. Oftentimes for loans, financing, and grants, it's kind of table stakes. People have to get an energy audit so that they can show that they're planning on actually saving a little bit of money and reducing their energy burden. And depending on the cost, for the real superficial ones, they can only cost a few $100s. We've seen some go north of $20,000 if there's going to be a big factory or something that's going to require multiple days, engineers on site, it all adds up. So people came to us and they said, okay, I understand what an energy audit is. I understand where to go to get one. How much does it cost? Oh, geez, that's a big number. So we developed a fund that small businesses are able to apply to be able to gain access to grants from MOPEC to the small business to help defray the cost. We'll cover anywhere from 60% to 100% of the cost of the energy audit, and we actually have a cap of $20,000. Most of the ones that come to us, they wind up costing $3,000 or $4,000, and we cover the vast majority of that. I think the average one in our portfolio of grant gifts goes somewhere in the neighborhood of about 92 to 96%. And then people ask us, where do I go to get an energy audit? And we did a statewide RFP about 2 years ago, and we selected 9 different businesses who have an enhanced level of service for people that come to them and say, NOPEC sent me. So your small businesses can be able to go onto our website, and they can call up these folks and say, I need an energy audit, and then they'll hit the ground running, get people deployed. Believe it or not, because of the sort of lack of folks in this trade, the energy auditing and energy engineering space, it's a real long lead time. So this program attempts to circumvent that a little bit and get these moving a little bit quicker. And then that brings us to the projects. The projects need money. And from this point on, ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you that some of this stuff is stuff that MOPEC administers, but what your council president asked me to do was also deliver some of the other information. So this relates to tax credits. We're obviously not the IRS. This relates to some of the Inflation Reduction Act benefits that are in play. And the big caveat for all of this is it's a very, as anybody that picks up a newspaper recently understands, it's a very fluid situation. So these things may change very, very significantly over the next few months. But at the moment, this is all stuff that currently is still available. So the Inflation Reduction Act, and you'll forgive me, I'm going to go through this pretty quickly, but again, it is in the printed copy. There are a number of different small business benefits, and carbon credits are one of them, which are enhanced tax credits for businesses that maybe have a little land and they can do carbon sequestration. For anybody that is getting into industrial facilities, and there is some of that in Lorain, people that are looking at different ways for fluids to be used, battery materials type stuff. There's all sorts of new advanced technologies, grants, and tax credits that are available. There is the solar tax credit, which has become wildly popular. Solar tax credits for businesses start at 30%, and we've seen businesses go up to as much as 60% depending on the location of where they are. So that tax credit means that if a solar array costs $500,000 or let's say $1 million, they have the potential of getting anywhere from $300,000 to $600,000 back in terms of the tax credit. Those tax credits can be strung out for 5 years, or they could be monetized for a small fee, being able to reapply a lot of that capital back into the project. So those programs are very, very valuable, and it is available for the first time, in my knowledge, in American history, for nonprofits and municipalities to also take advantage of that with the same as cash direct pay feature of this program. So we work to be able to help supplement a lot of the guidance that that these projects might pursue. Electric vehicles and charging, there are still tax credits available, although, you know, depending on reading the tea leaves, I'm not sure if they're going to stick around or not. But there is a state-run program, and that state-run program is something that has subsidies for individuals that want to start a business, they want to start a gas station, and also to have an electric vehicle charging station there. There's a healthy amount of subsidy available for businesses that want to begin those types of activities. And my little disclaimer down there is subject to changes. And there's also refundable tax credits, all sorts of things for research. Obviously, it's in the best interest of the country for there to be good, best minds and scientists working towards these things. So there's a lot of those tax credits available as well. Commercial buildings, one of the smaller things that folks don't know, if there's a new building and if it's energy efficient, there's a scale that the IRS has that the more efficient the building is, the bigger the tax credit you can take, and that's up to $5 per square foot for buildings that are completed after January 1 of 23. That can be a lot, you know, especially if it's a large shipping, receiving type place or a warehouse facility. And by the way, with all of these, I included some of the citations there. And then we get into the PACE program. Now, our PACE program is something that City Council is probably familiar with because we have actually indexed in Lorain more than any other of our 243 communities. There's a very strong appetite amongst your small business community, which we love, to be able to do some of these PACE deals. And we work with the Lorain Port an awful lot to be able to get these through because they are the overseer, they are the watchdog themselves to make sure that there's no predatory lending going on. We're a public agency, so it's very transparent. We get audited a lot, and we're happy to do it. But there are some other private lenders out there that don't have the same scrutiny that NOPEC does. So the rules are in place for a reason, and we're certainly happy to comply with them. But we have a very good working relationship with the folks at the Lorain Port to be able to deploy these funds and really help people along. The nice thing about our program is geared for small businesses. For those of you that may or may not know what PACE lending stands for, it is Property Assessed Clean Energy. And in a nutshell, it is a lender making a investment in a property. And then the way that the recipient repays that investment is through the taxation system. So these deals require city council approval. It doesn't cost the city anything for these deals to occur, but it does require that the city is aware of them, has put thought into them, a bunch of eyeballs have gotten onto them to make sure that they're legitimate, and there's a deal struck with the county so that when the taxes come in every 6 months, the borrower winds up repaying the county repays us, and that's the way that it works. This is very exciting, but a lot of the lenders out there, frankly, don't do deals less than $5 or $10 million, which is way bigger than your typical Main Street business. Most of these folks need something smaller, so we designed our program to be specifically for small businesses, and we hold our own paper, so that enables us to keep the interest rates really, really low. So compared to this morning's, interest rates for a SBA loan, for example, a 7A loan, we're able to offer our rates at 5%, and then most 7A or 504 loans are in the 7 or 8%. I'd even see as high as a variable up to 13, which is a bad place to be if you're a small business. So our program is designed for small business. Up to $1 million. My average deal portfolio size is about $445,000, which is right in the slot for small businesses. That's enough to be able to do a roof and your HVAC and maybe a couple of front windows. That's the kind, if you're a larger facility. So that's the kind of lending that we do, and it's all about small business. And like I said, Lorain, I think, is by far and away the largest index of our portfolio that we've invested in. We love doing business in Lorain. It is considered off-book debt by GAAP standards. That's also very important for a small business. One of the reasons for that is that if you're in agribusiness, for instance, and you kind of work on the tempo of the seasons, you have a line of credit to be able to pay your employees year-round. Because this is off-book debt, it's not technically considered debt. It's a tax assessment. That doesn't hit your creditworthiness or your line of credit if you're a business that relies on lines of credit. Other seasonal businesses, even certain delivery firms, a lot of this kind of goes seasonally. So this is a huge benefit for a small business to be able to have that capital invested in their property without necessarily having it hit the other areas of their business. And it can pay for up to 100% of the qualified energy efficiency measures. Now, that's a very broad umbrella. That's roof. I have a list in here in a second. It's roof, it's windows, it's doors, it's insulation, it's siding, it's HVAC, it's lighting. All of these things contribute to that. And, by the end of the day, you're talking about 70% of a new build or more. And then if that $1 million limit is a little bit too big, we also have a basic lending program that we call STEP, the Savings Through Efficiency Program. We can offer up to $125,000 available for borrowers per project. It's a static rate of 5% again. We have a really good deal running basically right now for businesses. And by the way, PACE and STEP are both available for small businesses and nonprofits and municipalities. There's no fixed rate, it's a fixed rate and a fixed term, no prepay penalty. It's standard lending. We'll put a mortgage on the property, and that's that. And it can pay to up to 75% of those qualified energy efficiency measures. So I can't tell you how many times we've had a restaurant call and say, you know, I'm sorry, my walk-in fridge is from the Reagan administration. It went finally. I need a new one, and I need it today. So we're able to turn these down in a matter of a week to 10 days if they have their finances together, and we can get them the money that they need to be able to get the really essential equipment. So that's the program designed there for small businesses. And here's just a real quick list of, and it's not even the complete list here, but it can do a lot of things. We've had folks use this for solar, where they take some of our money, they work through the tax credits, and they get a really good deal on their solar program. The efficiencies are abound, especially with some of the tax deductions and credits that are available. And so here's some of the other ones that I encourage people to look at. There are tax credits that are still funded from the ARPA funds that came out in 2021. If folks are not familiar with the Department of Development, and I'm sure everyone on council is certainly, and a lot of the folks in the audience here, really recommend that folks get to know the Department of Development, especially their collateral enhancement program, and also their Office of Women-Owned and Minority-Owned Businesses. It's a new office with the Department of Development. I really think that a lot of people would do well to take a look at that. They are offering mini loans at, I believe, 0% interest for 5 or 10 years for women-owned or minority-owned businesses, up to $45,000. So great startup funds that are there with DOD. And here's some more of these. You know, we've sort of done the research for you. Me and my staff are all very well versed in all of these. So like I say, when people call us, we kind of know where to send them. If they're not necessarily a good fit for us, chances are there's a really good deal at NOPEC. But if they are looking for other things, there's all sorts of opportunities with EPA, depending on if they are looking at a brownfield site, for instance, or reclamation of an old gas station, there's buster money out there. There's all sorts of things to be able to make businesses thrive, and we just ask that people give us a call. And there's also federal resources. Again, the big caveat here is they're all subject to change as the profile of investments and puts and takes at the federal level change. But these are a few different grant programs that local small businesses and the city might take a look at. Especially, I would encourage folks to look at the Community Change Grants program, and some of the innovation research programs are still active in the Department of Energy. So those are really kind of lucrative. If you want to think of it that way, they're very rich, I suppose you could say. There's a lot of money available for some of those more advanced technology development points. And then there's also alternatives, and this was one of the things that caught a lot of people's attention as small businesses go. So the alternatives are energy as a service, so that's paying for performance energy, providing off-balance sheet stuff with no upfront capex. People would ask us, okay, maybe I want to do solar, but I want to do it behind the meter, and that's sort of a term of art in the utility industry of generating your energy and putting it into your facility before the meter gets involved. Okay, so you're not necessarily buying any energy from the energy company. And we help people work through what that would look like for them or for their business. Another way to approach that is a power purchase agreement, and that's a contract whereby a business buys renewable energy from a developer. So that can be something where you own the building, but a developer owns the panels, for instance, and then you kind of work that out as to what that would look like. A lot of small businesses appreciate that because they have very little risk involved in that piece of it. It's maybe a little bit more expensive in the long run than kind of doing the traditional, I'm going to buy my own panels, I'm going to put them on my own facility, but it does alleviate a lot of the risk, and especially if it's cash flow tight business, sometimes that may or may not be the best thing for them. And that is all I have for this evening. So I'm certainly happy to answer any questions. We're very proud and pleased to work with City of Lorain going forward. And my contact information is on the screen as well as in your pamphlet. If there's anything that comes to mind with small businesses in the City of Lorain, I would strongly encourage you to send them my way. And we're just very grateful for being here today. Thank you all.
Thank you, Aaron and Kyla, for the information. Before I turn it over to council, I did have one thing, Aaron, I was hoping you would share with the group. Aaron, I had an opportunity to speak before the meeting this evening, and unfortunately, I don't think there was enough of the big Cleveland State study book to give everybody. I think I've got one, and I think our clerk's office is going to have one. But the most interesting thing Aaron said to me there, and I'll let him tell you guys, is we see a lot of the bad stuff related to this energy deregulation in Ohio. And it was, I think I was a kid when it happened. And then I think Aaron could share some of the data with you that, what Ohio was like, what our energy bills were like when we had no choices. We had to, wherever you lived, you had to use whoever was in that area. And since Ohio deregulated it and gives us the choices now with apples to apples, Aaron, could you share what you shared with me earlier?
Sure. Yes, and we can certainly furnish the City Council with more copies, but Cleveland State University just conducted a study about deregulation, and in a nutshell, it may be going over territory you're already familiar with, forgive me, but there's three main components. There's your generation, which is the big power plant. There's transmission, which are the lines, and then there's supply, which is bargaining and billing. And it would be kind of unreasonable for each individual homeowner to have their pick of 8 or 9 different power plants necessarily, right? And so that's all dependent on where you live. And similarly, we don't have 50 copper lines of electricity coming into our house, and you say, I want that one as my point of selection. So that would be a little bit unreasonable too. But the one part that is open to the deregulated competitive market is your supply. And Ohio was among the most expensive for retail energy, natural gas and electricity before 1999-2000 when the law was enacted. And once deregulation occurred, all of a sudden the competitive market forces took over, and Ohio became among the least expensive in the nation. Not exactly overnight, it took a little time, but it really did well. I can put it into context. I looked just at the end of last week on apples to apples, where NOPEC actually as a government agency is not permitted to list ourselves, but you can find our pricing there. It's actually pretty amazing right now, but there were over 140 different offers on the electric side, and there were, I think, 76, 77 different offers on the natural gas side that were available, and these competitive forces really do keep the prices low. So what the study reflected was that over the last 25 years of this deregulated environment, the estimate is that it has saved Ohio ratepayers over $40 billion with a B dollars. So when you really start to think about it, that's $40 billion back into the pockets of residents. It may not be a huge amount by person, but it is a huge amount taken over time. So the fact that the city of Lorain decided to go in with aggregation so that the folks at NOPEC would be able to do all of the hedging. So we have hedging experts on staff, and we can really do our best to be able to put forward a really good price. That ultimately is kind of the outgrowth, the organic outgrowth of that deregulated environment. So this study was really validating because it kind of shows that the system is working to protect Ohioans and to help Ohioans save money.
Thank you, Aaron. I just want you to share that with everybody. And I also, I know probably other members of council have the same concern. Part of the, along with the good of the deregulation of us being able to pick and apples to apples lower rates, unfortunately, we also get the door knockers. They've been in my neighborhood like crazy recently. I don't know if any other members of council have seen them. And I talked to Kyla before the meeting. She's going to reach out to Lori and see where we are as a city with our Do Not Knock program, which is a way for people, but I always worry about seniors, not, getting swindled at the door by somebody who's coming around and is going to sign them up for a bad contract where they're paying twice as much for their supplier than they could be. So with that, I'll open it up to members of council. Anybody with a comment or a question?
And sorry, Chairman, on the Do Not Knock program, the program that he's referencing is one that NOPEC administers on behalf of our communities. So it's a very simple ordinance that gets passed, and it requires, depending on the measure that's taken by council, it requires anybody that does want to go door to door to be able to be licensed or prohibited entirely for profit. It wouldn't necessarily prohibit anybody that's selling Girl Scout cookies or anybody with a religious affiliation from knocking on the door. But the Do Not Knock program is across all of our footprint for participating communities, and we have an awful lot of them. So a lot of folks really like that. We also furnish do not knock stickers and stuff like that for small businesses or residents to be able to put in their front window, and that does help dissuade anybody from doing that. And the last thing I'll say about that is NOPEC absolutely as a policy does not knock, period. And as a matter of fact, Kyla and I are required as part of our employment to turn in any branded shirts or anything that we have should our employment end, so that they don't get wound up in the Goodwill bin or something like that, and somebody grabs it and masquerades as us, which has unfortunately happened before. So we want to make sure that everybody's privacy is really looked after in a thoughtful way, and make sure that there's no predatory behavior going on to be able to say, hey, let me take a look at your bill, because that's kind of how it always starts.
And in a follow-up to that, does the do not knock, can that keep the politicians away from knocking on my door too?
I'm not sure about that, but
any members from council wishing to ask a question or have a comment? Seeing none, anybody from the public? And seeing none, with that, Aaron, Kyla, well, thank you guys for your presentation. Director Carbonaro, if you want to come up, sir, we'll get you ready for the last item on our agenda this evening. We'll take a 3-minute recess at this time as we switch presenters. Hey guys, we're going to give about 1 more minute. We're going to get restarted here. If anybody has any questions or anything, if you guys could take it out in the hallway out here, please. We're going to get started in about 1 minute. We're waiting on, hopefully, Councilman Arroyo to come back in. If not, we'll get started in 1 minute. If you'd like. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will now reconvene our committee meeting with our third item. Madam Deputy Clerk, if you could read the caption, please.
Tonight we have a discussion regarding a proposed ordinance creating section 911.202 payment plans.
Thank you. We have our Director Carbonaro here with us today. Again, we've been doing this, I would say, since I took over chairman of this committee. When it comes to anything in the Utilities Department, especially items involving, rates, fees, plans, etc., we've been going to either a committee meeting with those, or we've been taking those to a second read and a third read to make sure we're allowing proper time to get public input. To make sure that we don't run into some of the public backlash things that we had, 4 or 5 years ago. So in keeping with that, we have the director here to kind of give us an overview of what's going on here and what's changing, if you could, sir.
Yes. Good evening. So what we're presenting from the Utilities Department is basically memorializing our payment plans. We currently do offer payment plans. However, we've been finding a lot of difficulties in what is occurring with these payment plans with our customers and our customer base, and we have a lot of outstanding delinquencies. So what we're trying and what we're asking legislation for is to basically put it out there. This is what our payment plan structure is, so we don't have questions and people think that we're making up the rules. These are the rules. This is the application. This is what we're doing. So that's really what I'm kind of asking City Council. I had the same discussion with the Law Department, and because they had a question of, isn't this more of administrative? But being representatives of the public, I think it should be made, I believe it should be made aware that, it's weighed in on with this body. And it should be, because you are representatives of the public. Just to provide some data as to why we are asking in changing up the payment plan process is we currently have an outstanding delinquencies of our arrears of $2.4 million. That includes inactive accounts. However, that inactive accounts is only about 1%. So I have some additional data, but that's counting all of your arrears, because when you don't pay, you're also not paying your trash, your stormwater. Just in doing some additional calculations based off another report, and this is active accounts only, and this includes everyone, including payment plans, it's about 1.8 million. And that's really just looking at the water penalties, our sewer penalties, stormwater penalties, our water readiness to serve, which is a fixed fee, and our sewer EPA compliance charge, which is our fixed fee. Really, those are the big ones that my department's concerned about, and it's about $1.8 million. So in asking for the payment plans, which we offer, we find we have a lot of these payment plans defaulting. Just as of today, we had 20 accounts that defaulted. Some additional data is that since January of 2024, this is all to date, we've had 354 defaulted payment plans. Since January 1st of 2024, we have had 664 plans completed, however. We've had 270 currently in status, so active. These are payment plans that are up to date and being kept up with. 270. And then we have 254 past due in process of default payment plans. So really, if you add up your defaulted payment plans and the ones that are just in process of defaulting, you're looking at basically 50% of your plans are defaulting. What we find, though, is that we find a lot of repetition in the individuals and the accounts that we see payment plans occurring. We don't have a very robust billing staff and meter staff, so we've tried to do a lot with a lot. We try to do a lot with little. People know our rotation. It's no secret. I mean, if you've been in the city of Lorain, you know when we're coming around. If you see them walking, you know when they're doing shutoffs. And we find that people, what we in-house say was people like to kind of play the game. They know they're not going to get shut off immediately. They wait until they get that letter. They get the letter, they call in, they get on a payment plan, they pay for 1 month or two, they default, starts over again. And we see that, and you can go into our accounts. We've had accounts that have 2, 3, 4, 5 payment plans. So it's becoming an issue, and it's causing revenues to decrease. Our revenues are pretty stagnant, and they have been for the last couple of years, even though we're seeing more homes built. We're not really seeing an increase in revenue. We're actually, if I had to take a hard look, probably consumption's decreasing. I'd like to think that's people using less water, being conscious, new appliances, but we are seeing a pretty stagnant, flat revenue. So this is why it feels like we need to be active in doing something. And one thing that I feel like may be an issue with that is brought up in this ordinance is instituting a 12-month calendar year rolling schedule for payment plans. You can only get on a payment plan once in a 12-month rolling period. You sign up this month in March, you default in August, you're not eligible until next March. And we're hoping that helps stop people that try to manipulate the situation.
Anything else to add, sir?
That's really all the data.
I had one follow-up for you before I turn it over to council. And again, I don't expect you to know exact number, but prior to COVID, what was this number? We're saying, you said 2.8 right now, 2.2?
Around 1.8 in the numbers that I'm concerned. Total, we're looking at 2.4.
And what was that historically prior to COVID? I know during COVID, we're in the middle of a pandemic and we had to stop shutoffs and keep service going for people. So is this like a pretty modern problem coming out of that pandemic, you would say, or?
We like to believe so. We can get more hard data for you tomorrow. Be able to pull what those numbers were prior to 2020.
Thank you, sir. With that, I'll hand it over to Councilwoman Springowski.
Yeah, Mr. Carbonaro, I'd like to know what the arrearages would be without the penalties for water and sewer. I think that is a critical component. And I know that you don't have that in front of you. And
I do.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Okay. Without the penalties.
So we're looking at 31, 47, 78, about 88,000. So subtract 88,000 in penalties.
88,000 from 1.8 million.
Yeah.
That's significant. And I know you say that people are gaming the system, but when you consider the socioeconomic demographics of this city and how many of our residents are on pension, are on assistance, especially with pensions that haven't gone up, and I say this as a new retiree, their pensions, they're not getting quite the cost of living increases with the inflation that's going on, and then, you know, heat has gone up, electric has gone up, their phones have gone up, transportation has gone up, food has gone up, and water is a basic necessity. I don't think, you know, I've always said that when we're dealing with these situations, especially basic life necessities, we have to have tremendous compassion for that. I've said it until I'm blue in the face about we need to increase our revenues by economic development and getting large commercial customers to offset the cost of the water for the residents. Those have been the avenues that I've looked at, you know, in order to artificially, if you want, lower the cost of these. We've talked about it at the SWAP board meetings and that, and you understand where I'm coming from on this. But I'm going to tell you right now, I don't care if they're gaming the system. I really don't, because I don't know what their personal circumstances are, and that may be what they need to do in order to be able to feed their children. That may be what they need to do in order to keep the heat or the lights on or to feed themselves. And if I cannot support putting them on a rolling calendar or limiting how many times they can go onto a payment assistance. I had a woman that called me, and Mr. Carrion's office was fantastic, and so was Mrs. Henley. And they had lost, the husband had lost his job, he had been injured, and they were quite a bit behind, and they had so much money to put on in that, and they were desperate. And that is indicative of the times, and I think we really need, I mean, are we in a dire situation right now as far as the water department goes? Are we not going to be able to provide the services in any, in the next year? If we don't do this this rolling calendar payment plan where they're limited to how many times they can do it?
No.
Then I don't think we should do it. That's just right now, I have to look at it from there, but for the grace of God go I. And I understand what you're doing, and I understand what you're faced with, and it's a gargantuan task in that we have an aging infrastructure. It needs a lot of repairs. There's always water main breaks, what have you. And the people that work for you are doing a fantastic job with what they've got to work with, and I do appreciate your efforts and your department's efforts, and Billings and everybody that's involved in this. But I would rather be compassionate to our residents, especially the ones that are doing this. I think we have to, and I can't support doing a limit on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Springowski. Councilwoman Henley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To a degree, I have to concur with Mrs. Springowski, and but I have found too that sometimes folks, when they contact us, it's not altogether, I guess, true what they tell us, as I found out recently. But that being said, if we go on this rolling system and people are 5 months, say, without water service, so does that then become a problem for the health department and all the way around? And then do we end up with people living homeless, essentially?
So what do other cities do? How do they handle this? Is this what they do, or in as far as the payments that get in arrears and that kind of thing? I'd be interested how they handle that. This is a significant amount of money. And by the same token, and I'm just throwing this out, we have a lot of options within BHP for home repairs, and oftentimes these large water bills are in part due to toilets that malfunction, different things like that. So if we could find a way to maybe make sure, especially with elderly folks, or some people don't have the ability, or they don't think of these things. They don't even know how to check to see if their toilet's running. I mean, it was seriously. And that's, a $10 fix with a new flotation device. So if there's some way that we can tie in with some of these other programs to get these repairs made so that these water bills don't become so exorbitant. And it's just a thought. And by the way, I would like to thank Carmen in person for her help a couple weeks ago, last week or the week before. So anyway, that's all I have. Oh, one more question. Can you lien the properties on these, outstanding water bills? And I would like to know how many of these in arrears are income producing properties. Are they rentals? Can we get that information, or is that?
We typically don't have that data because we require the owners to sign up, and typically they sign up under business or independently.
Okay. I would be interested in finding that out. If I know it would be very difficult. Thank you.
And also, so a couple things that's been brought up so far is that we do know that Elyria does not offer payment plans.
Okay.
So that's just one. We can look at other communities around us as well. Also, 12 months isn't hard. It came out wrong. It's not a hard set in concrete. This is what we're doing. I mean, the reason for this, and I don't want to make it feel like a work session, but I want to start the conversation. We've talked about this internally for over a year about what to do. So it's not like 12 months is what we're doing moving forward. Before we would institute anything, I would talk with the mayor and safety service director, because let's be honest, they're probably going to get more calls than we do, because then they just give them to us anyway. But I just wanted to start the conversation to get people thinking. Are there some creative avenues that we can do, some creative things that we can do to help our citizens meet these responsibilities? So I know not everyone in 12 months is a long time. It's a year, and so 6 months. Is that more workable? Are we looking at is 3 months too short? Things of that nature. Do we look at possibly 2 within a calendar year? That's kind of what I want. Why I wanted to bring this to council, and said if there's any questions to talk about it. So that's this getting kind of getting everyone thinking.
Thank you, Councilman Henley. Councilwoman Kempton.
Hi, thank you. Quite frankly, I think this is a punishment for being poor. I think that if you are on a payment plan and your payment plan is 3 months, you pay your payment plan, and to not offer it to people who need it again in a year is absolutely punishment for being poor. I don't know if you know this, but Urban League, Lorain County Community Action, Job and Family Services, and Lorain First Call for Help, and Lorain schools have no money for water. So when you turn them away, they have no help. If they break their rental agreement by having utilities shut off, that's grounds to be kicked out of their house. So now we're making new homeless people in Lorain. I understand that it's a problem, but I think that we have a moral responsibility to people who have very little to try to help them. And I do think that we need a broader conversation, but I think we need to bring in those agencies that could potentially help, council, And also, churches, anyone that can help. No, we should not completely carry the burden, but we can't put it on people who literally have nothing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Kempton. Councilman Arroyo.
Thank you. I look at this two different ways. Before, it was all about being an activist. This point is now more being responsible with the city. And I totally agree at times with what Ms. Kempton said and Ms. Springowski said. But I also feel like we're at a point now where our city is at a point where we have to be responsible with our funds. And the decisions that we make, let it be the water bills, salaries, and so on, we have to make sure that we make the right decisions that are going to lead this city forward and not backwards. And so with some of these people that are on the list that continue to, I guess, play the ring around the rosy game with the city, how many of them in the past have signed up for some of the nonprofit programs that help with the bills? Do you know that? And does the city offer those type of services for these type of people? Because there is programs for this. So and I think a lot of it has to do with being responsible as elected official with making sure we make the right decision for our constituents, but at the same time leading the city. And I think it's on both ways. 12 months is out of control. That's just my personal opinion. I think that's a long time. But I think the first time if a water bill was to get shut off, it's after they call to say, hey, my water's off, it's leading them to an agency that possibly could help. And then that starts the process of assisting rather than 12 months and out. That's just my personal opinion. So thank you.
We do relay for people that need assistance, we do tell them the agencies that can offer assistance. I just know that their funding as well is starting to dry up. We did that during COVID. We really pushed it. What we actually had is we had the agencies calling us asking for people. Nobody was contacting the agencies asking for help. And that's what we found more often than not.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Arroyo. Councilwoman Moon.
Thank you, Chairperson. All due respect to our citizens, I have picked up applications at United Way. United Way had so much money, people was not using the money, they had to send the money back. You have to get up, and I'll tell people, did you fill out that application? Oh, I'm going to do it. And then when their water's off, they call me. You got to be responsible as a person to pick up those applications. I have helped them fill those applications out, and they don't go and give them to the agency and stuff. And all due respect to my women, I tell them all the time, you can't be buying those pretty shoes. You got to pay that water bill. All respect to them, because I'm out there. And when I see a young girl and her water's off, I said, but you got a Louis Vuitton purse. You got to stop doing that and pay your water bill. All due respect to them. I might get some calls. But you got to be responsible as an adult and handle your business. There's a lot of agencies out there. They just sometimes don't want to do it, and sometimes they get a little lazy in this situation. And I spread that word out. I take them to applications. I fill those applications. Community Action has them on the side of the building. All you have to do is go on that side of the building and get those applications and fill them out. Sometimes they're just not responsible in handling their business. And some of the times, well, you know, they're young. No, you got to take care of your business. I have grandchildren that live in apartments and stuff, and they sometimes get behind. I tell them, you got to handle that business. Go down there and take care of your business. But what do you want? What do you want? And how can we help? How can we help you handle this situation? And then I have the landlords who they'll say, well, I only can pay $500. Well, then you're going to pay all the bills. And then when that bill comes, correct me if I'm wrong, you cannot go and apply for help because the bill is in the landlord's name. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Carmen Lozano, Billing and Meter Department. I just should have come up when Joe came up. As far as requesting assistance as a tenant, if that is in your landlord's name, you can still get a copy of that bill. We've done that for Salvation Army. We've done that for Jobs and Family Services. We've done that for Catholic Charities. Anyone who, so long as they have, either they come in with their lease, their driver's license with the address on it, we will provide a bill for them to get that assistance. The same with Section 8. If they are there, the bill is in their name, but for whatever reason the landlord is saying they have to pay, we provide those bills to them. We don't deny that for assistance at any time.
Well, what I'm finding out is the renters do not know that.
So when, so say it's a renter calls in and it's in their landlord's name. We ask who they are. We give them what the balance is to get that bill on. We give them the option to sign a payment plan, which is how these payment plans originated. I've been with the city going on 29 years. This is the same exact form that we have had since I started. That form has not changed at all. That tenant can then sign for that payment plan. They are now responsible. They will get a second copy of the bill to the service address so they're aware what that bill is. The owner will still get a copy of that bill because ultimately if that tenant moves, that bill stays on the property. It does not go with the tenant. It will stay on the property. This new payment plan is part of protecting the landlords as well, because you have your Section 8 tenants who the bill's in their name. The owner's not requesting a second copy. They have no idea what's going on with that property until the tenant moves out. With the payment plans now, and this is the same way Elyria does theirs, the owner has to agree or be aware that this tenant has now signed up for the payment plan.
Another thing, if the landlord, say when those tenants move out and that bill is say $1,000, the landlord have to pay that bill.
Correct.
Before that water gets turned on again.
Correct.
And that's a big burden for our landlord also.
And that's part of why we want to make them part of this payment plan program so that they are more aware. We can't run their business for them, but we can absolutely make sure that they are aware of what's going on. They shouldn't have to know once the water's turned off that this tenant is 6 months behind, 8 months behind, or has been living in the home with the water off and they have no idea. So this is definitely providing them more information so they know what's going on with their properties. Now, we did last year create the principal landlord list, which was an ordinance that was passed. Currently, we only have one major landlord company, which is M49, who signed up for that. And basically, that's them telling us they don't care the status of the account. They want the water left on when a tenant moves off. They will pay for that bill, regardless of what it is. Right now, that is the only business that is doing that as far as major rental companies.
Well, I find out also that when a tenant has a water problem, they're scared to tell their landlord because they feel their rent is going to go up. And I deal with several people in my ward. And I'm like, well, why don't you just call your landlord and, you know, have them fix that toilet or the hole that's in the ceiling? And they're scared to say anything to their landlord. And I've had said something to the landlords and I got cussed out real bad, you know. But there's other, I tell people, I come out here in the streets and see what's going on because there's two sides to a story and the truth. But sometimes people just won't go and handle their business like in my ward. So I fight hard for them, but I tell them, you got to step up to this plate. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Moon. Councilwoman DeBall.
Yes, thank you. You mentioned Elyria. What does Elyria do when?
They are, so I deal with Elyria. I meet with them almost once a month as far as they run the same system we do, the same meter reading. So we talk about a lot about delinquencies and how they handle them. They're at 2% delinquency for their city. They do not do payment plans unless it's an extreme situation and they have to actually go through an approval process for that payment plan to be put in place. They shut off. They do turn off lists and they shut off.
Okay.
They do liens as well. Their liens are done quarterly, and that's also done basically on a board. So they come with a list of addresses, and then the board has to approve the lien. I will state with our liens, it has always been if the property is liened, the water's also turned off. We've not had liens that are, you know, in place and then the water's on because you still technically owe money to the city, even though it's now placed with the county.
So the city does use liens?
Correct, we do.
All right. So, so right now, if I don't pay my water bill and I come in and I make a payment plan and I don't fulfill it, nothing happens?
Currently, so that plan is literally a piece of paper that's in a file. We've always only had one credit counselor. I recently gave up my office so that we could fit 2 credit counselors in the same office. We have 2 people that are working there in conjunction. They create the payment list. They literally do not have time to go back to these folders to see who has defaulted. So I have everyone in their spare time going and looking at the accounts. Some of these started their payment plans in September of 2024 and never made another payment. So what we have to physically do, because they would still, depending on how much time they got on their payment plan, 4, 6, 10 months, they are still getting a bill that's advising them, this is your payment plan amount, pay your payment plan. It does not produce a termination notice. Because it doesn't do that, we have to physically take them off of this payment plan so that now they're getting that red bill notice saying, hey, you are on a payment plan, you have not paid, you're now in termination status. Once they get that notice, that's when we can go ahead and schedule. And again, it might be another 3 months before we're in that area. We are very systematic so that we're not wasting time. We start in one side of town, we go to the next side of town, so that we're not running back and forth. They know if we're on the east side, it might need to be another 4 or 6 months before we're on the west side. By then, they've made their situation worse by not doing what the bill says, which is calling us, communicate with us, let us know what it is that you need. How can we help you? We have the information for the agencies that have funds. We ask when they're turned off, what is your age? Office of Aging has been helping. The veterans have been helping. We have all that information there, but we cannot give that information out if no one's asking us. Half the time, they're not reading their bills.
Am I to understand that you don't have software that can help you keep these records and automatically bill or remind people?
The bills come out monthly on the 1st. It will show them on there, but as far as going back, we have to run physical reports and someone has to look through those.
So I had a, every time Mr. Carbonaro comes here to council, I always take very good care to make sure I pay my water bill. Because he has a list of who owes him, and I don't want to be on that list. I guess my question is this, or what I would like for you to do, is to walk me through, if I am in default, and I come into the office to make another payment plan, would you walk me through what happens?
So you currently have a payment plan that you have. You haven't kept up with the payments. Is your service on or off? Because that makes a difference. If you're coming in, you're on an active plan and you're saying, look, my next month's payment, I can't do that. We have reworked payment plans all the time. Again, people have to be proactive and say, look, not after it's been shut off, but prior, when the issue arises. And this has happened before, they call and they say, hey, look, it says I have to pay $120 plus my current bill. I only have this much. We will rework another payment plan. We'll note the account to say customer said they will pay $200 by this date. And again, it's still going to take us a while. You could tell us that and not do it. It's going to take us a while to actually get back to there, read through the notes and figure out what's going on with the account. If you are off and you say, again, you started a payment plan in September, now it's March and we've turned you off, you've not made one payment but the one that you started with, currently as it is, we will offer you another plan, but you have to pay half of what that total bill is. How the payment plans work now, you pay your current bill, so you would pay your March balance, a quarter of your past due amount, that is the amount that you would need to start the plan. Then we will divide the arrears into 4, 6, 10-month payments based on what you can do. So we're not forcing anyone into anything, but again, it's communication. We have to know, we can't guess where people are at or what's going on.
I understand that water is an essential, and that as the city supplies the water, it seems cruel to shut it off. On the other hand, I'm with Miss Moon. If I have to come in and give you a quarter a month, I owe you that money. I've used the product and I owe you the money. So the idea of just letting people just like wipe it out of their memory is abhorrent to me, because you signed up for the water. This is your responsibility. Somehow or another, if it's 2 cents a month, you get down there and pay those people something on your bill. So I think this might be a little harsh because, you know, maybe people need longer. If you've been laid off and you finally get back to work, you might need some time to do that. But if you owe the money, you need to pay it. Even if it's $1 a month or whatever, you need to pay it. You need to be responsible. I'm with you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Duvall. Carmen, I did have a question. You said O'Leary is at 2% delinquencies. What is our percentage delinquencies? I need to borrow my finger.
It's around 25%. About 7,000 accounts.
7,000 out of
25,000.
25,000. Okay, thank you. Seeing more lights, we'll go back to Councilwoman Supergowski.
Yes, I was wondering how many, do you have this number, first of all? How many terminated accounts do you have? Not inactive, but accounts that have been, the water has been shut off.
We would have to go, I can get that information for you,
Thank
but I
you.
don't have it now.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. And I'm not saying to let people just skate and that, but I'm saying that things happen. There have been people that, okay, say you get injured, I'll use Ford because I'm familiar with that system. Say you get injured at Ford and you're on medical and you're only getting a certain amount, but then Unicare or whatever system they're using now, there is a problem with the paperwork, and so your medical payments get delayed. So you can't make that and everything like that. And it, you know, it just ties you up and it holds you back, and it's a situation. And like I said, if they're making the payments and everything like that, I don't think we should limit that while you were on it within the 12 rolling months. Say you go back to work and you're making your payments great for 3 or 4 months, and then you have a relapse of whatever, and then you're back out again, and you're going to need to be back on a payment plan because you can't do it. There are circumstances that are going to arise, and that's what I'm saying is we shouldn't limit them. I'm not saying that if they're making a payment plan and then just not paying altogether, that we should allow them to skate. That it was never what I meant to convey. But we do have to be compassionate when we're dealing with them. I think that the penalties are very harsh on this, the penalties for the water rates and that. But by the same token, how fair is it to the people that are struggling but are still making their payments and paying their bills on time? It's, it's a difficult situation.
So we can, that's another thing you bring up is, I know certain other places, they do hardship clauses. Loss of job, medical issues, that is an option as well. It's something we can explore, see if it's possible for a proven hardship. I would like to mention that probably the first ordinance I sent down as director was to remove the 2% on the arrears on our penalties. I got rid of that. So now we only charge 10%. And we typically remove that penalty when you complete a payment plan. So that's, we tried to make it, one, easier to calculate your past due, but also less. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Carmen, but I believe Elyria charges that they just put that on.
They just put the 2% on.
Elyria just put the 2% on their arrears, which, I mean, that's 2% on what you owe and then additional. So we've kind of flip-flopped, but that's one other thing we try to do to make it easier and actually reduce, you know, the confusion as to why am I continually going up and I'm paying my bill.
Thank you, Councilwoman Spragowski. Councilwoman Kempton.
So I have a question. If someone is behind and they don't want to be on a payment plan, okay, they don't want to come in, they're embarrassed or whatever. If they were to pay their current bill on time and in full with their, say, their second paycheck of the month, and then they try to make a good faith payment towards the arrears, would that satisfy? Because they are they're not growing the arrears. They're paying their current bill on time and in full and trying to make the best of it. So that, I mean, we can see as a resident, they're not trying to get away with or game the system. They are doing the best that they can. How would something like that work? Because I very often feel that people don't want to tell their landlord is in California and could care less, or they're not sure how to come to you, or they're embarrassed and they don't want to. So is that something that could work?
So there is an ordinance 911.209 that indicates no partial payments accepted of water and sewer bills.
Okay, but it wouldn't be partial payment, because if they were paying their current bill in full and on time, they would be paying the arrears at another time.
Your current bill would include your arrears.
Okay. Well,
it's your total.
So, right, because very often what you're going to face is the person can afford this month's bill, they simply can't afford 3 months' bill. And then they don't, and then they're not communicating with you, and then it becomes worse. So maybe it's something we have to look at.
So when you pay, you're actually paying your arrears first, and then you're paying your bill. So it's not reversed.
Right.
So when you're if you do make a partial payment, or you're paying that arrears first, and then you're not paying your current bill in full.
Right.
That's essentially what is occurring.
So maybe that's something council needs to look at, because if you are, because most people don't realize that. If they see a bill that's $125 and they pay that $125, they think that's what's being taken off. Most of your residents are going to think that. They're not thinking, okay, well, the arrears is being taken off first. Why can I never catch up? So maybe that's something that we as council need to look at. Does that make sense? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Kempton. Councilwoman Duvall.
Yeah, I just have a question. If there's no partial payment, how can you develop a payment plan?
That's outside of that ordinance. Again, that payment plan was established back as part of a lawsuit that is outside of the city's ordinance. And again, it is not a partial payment, it is a plan set up to pay the account current. So what we're saying is, you can't, say if you have a hospital bill, if you pay $50 on the hospital bill every month, they might not send you to collections because you're showing that you're paying something towards that bill. Your water bill is not the same way. You cannot continue to make partial payments on the bill and fall outside of the other ordinances, which states once you're 60 past due that you're subject for disconnection and everything else that the ordinances state. So that plan is what protects you from being turned off. So as far as a customer not wanting to do that, they have to understand that they are still receiving a termination notice. They are not getting the bill that says you are on a payment plan, refer to your payment plan. They are still subject for disconnection.
Thank you, Councilwoman Duvall. Seeing no more lights from council, we'll now open it up to the public. Anybody wishing to speak can come to the microphone. Mr. Spragowski, we know you very well, sir.
Just a quick question. What happens when these are late or payment plans? Does the sanitation department crack down? How does that work with them? Do they still pick up the garbage or what?
The trash is contracted to be picked up regardless of the status of the account. So if their water service is off, they are still going to get trash service. We actually pay for the trash prior to that month. It's billed out automatically.
Thank you, Mr. Springowski. Anyone else from the public? Seeing nobody from the public, anyone else from council? I think I'll go ahead and wrap us up. That first and foremost, Carmen and Joe, thank you guys for coming. From what I'm hearing from council, it sounds like council doesn't have a big problem with this ordinance, except for maybe section C, which is putting the 12 months in a 12-month period. So maybe we try passing this ordinance, amending it, and getting rid of that section C for right now, and see if things get better. I think things need to get better. You know, if Valeria's at 2% delinquency and we're at 25%, we're not that demographically different than Elyria. If they can make it work there, we should be able to make it work at least better here. But it's a tough issue. I mean, nobody wants to shut anyone's water off. We want to be firm, but we want to be fair. We want to be compassionate. I'd love to see us offer some incentive programs. You know, it sounds like Elyria is all like, you know, bashing you with penalties and scaring people into paying their bill. And I think that works too, but I'd like to see us be positive at the same time. You know, I know some places do, hey, you know, come in and get your beer bill caught up and we're going to waive all the fees. Or we come and get your bill caught up now, right now during tax time when people have a little bit of extra money and you get a 10% discount on what you owe. So like, we can offer some incentive programs and maybe have some positive ways of trying to get people to come in and pay. But certainly we got to do something. I mean, sewer and water bills, we've been really lucky to keep those rates where they are. I know the sewer side's even closer than the water side. I mean, every year we're counting pennies to figure out if we're going to raise bills for everybody else. And it's hard for me to tell all 65,000 residents in the city of Lorain, we got to raise water and sewer bills this year because we had 7,600 people that haven't paid their bill. I don't think that's fair either, but there's got to be some kind of happy ground in the middle. So I'm sorry, Councilman Roy, I didn't see your light. I'll go to you, sir. You can have the last word.
I mean, I agree to an extent, but before we send it to council, I feel more comfortable if we're going to make an amendment that we figure out exactly what it is before actually sending it to the table, and that's my motion.
Can I ask one more thing to say here?
Go ahead, Mr. Spagowski.
Yeah. Real quick, the disparity of 25% versus 2%, Elyria versus Lorain, aside from the demographics, they are similar, but I think Elyria puts the arrearages on their real estate taxes, so that would kind of fall back on the landlord rather than the resident. So I think it's something that maybe you should look at council administration, because I think that's what they're doing there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Roy, I talked to the deputy clerk, and yeah, we can take a motion to hold it in committee for right now. We can take a motion to send it back to administration. Possible amendment.
I'd like to make a motion to send it back to the administration because I truly feel, and I agree to an extent, that this needs to be addressed. But before we make any type of amendments, we had a few different ideas from a few different council members. I'd like to see what you guys come up with to bring back to us.
So motioning to send this to administration is in order. All members of the committee, we need a second from a member of the committee. Ms. Kempton.
I second that.
All members of the committee that support, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed? The motion carries, and we will be sending this matter to the administration for the amendment process. Thank you, and this adjourns our meeting.